Hey, so today we're going to be making a hammer, and we're going to just be using the 12 ton. So, going to do a standard rounding hammer and use 1045. So with a 12 ton here, I was able to punch that billet in one heat. I have found before I was using some 4140, and maybe it could have been a little bit hotter, but it took me a couple heats to get through it. So it is a little bit lacking in juice, but for most things it can get straight through the billet. But also, all we have available is the punch. We don't have any drifts for the 12 ton. So for this hammer, I've got this hand drift that I made that I'm going to work off of. So it's the same taper as our house-made hammers, and I'll just work this into that eye hole as I'm going along and use the fullers, the other fullers, to work the troughs of the hammer and the cheeks. So yeah, setup does take a little bit longer too, doing the swapping from the flat heads to the shoulder bolts for swapping out from the punch setup. So these are hammer eye tongs. So where they're scrolled up is fitting right inside of the eye there. And then based on that proportion of that scroll there, I'm able to push that up against the fullers there, and that will index onto where the fullers will land. So I used it to do top and bottom, and then from that pressing there, that fuller, I could rotate it 45 degrees, get those started, and then go off of there and do the sides and have it all be lined up nice. be sure when I'm first driving that drift in that it's out of the bottom there so that I'm able to hit it up against the anvil and have it strip off of the drift. So you have it inside there, you know, you're gonna have to go in there with a punch or something and try and get that out of there. Fullers are narrower than the cheeks of the hammer there, so I'm having to go back and forth, which is all right because I've got my nice little DPC here to keep me from going too far. But doing that with a manual valve would be tricky. You could always make fullers that are wider. You have the space there to make wider fullers, but for what we have available, it's narrower than what you would be hitting on your faces. So yeah, you could do the fuller dies and you have enough width there and be a little bit more of a radius that would actually probably end up working in your favor, especially with the manual valve. So I'll go ahead and switch over to those anyways to kind of planish these cheeks and smooth them out. So yeah, with the drawing dies, those were too wide. It started hitting my hammer faces. So if you wanted the cheeks thinner and the faces wider, you'd have to knock the corners down of the drawing dies. But if 5 minutes with an angle grinder, and you can get those worked down to where they wouldn't hit. Put a nice little radius on the corners. So yeah, that's ready for heat treatment and hanging, dressing the faces. So that's forging a hammer on the 12 ton. Went faster than I was expecting it to. It's got a lot of oomph for the size of the machine. Obviously, if you're wanting to be a professional hammer maker, get a bigger press, but you know, if you've already got a 12 ton or you know, you just want an introductory machine, you can really get a lot done with a 12 ton. So yeah, happy forging.